Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me, your host, Tommy Gilberts, as we sit down and take a behind-the-scenes look into Titan athletics with weekly interviews with coaches and athletes. This is Titan Table Talk. Good afternoon, Titan fans, and welcome inside the Ames Library podcast studio for Week 6 of Titan Table Talk here in the fall 2023 season. I'll be joined today by men's soccer player Ryan Miller, Titan head football coach Norm Eash, and Titan junior golfer Jadyn Spinks. First joining us this morning is Ryan. Ryan, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. Glad to have you with us. If you think way back to week 1 earlier this fall, we had Kyle Shawls, head men's soccer coach, on, coming off that 1-0 victory over WashU to open the year at Nice Field. And now, suddenly, as we were just talking about a moment ago, only 2 weeks away now from the end of the regular season. A couple of big CCIW games in this past week, 3-0 victory against Augustana on Wednesday, and then a scoreless draw up at Carroll on Saturday. How'd you guys feel about those two games?
I think it was really good. The Augie game was huge for us. That was a great home win. We needed those 3 points. I think we could have gotten a little bit more out of the Carroll game. We didn't really play to our potential, but it's always good to get a point on the road.
Yeah, especially in a tough conference where there's a lot of evenly matched teams. That's certainly the case. Now, the third draw of the season, the second for the Titans and CCIW play. This is the second year of the new overtime rules in collegiate soccer across the entire NCAA. New overtime rules, in other words, meaning that you don't play it in the regular season. Previously, it was 2 10-minute overtime periods, golden goal. What have your thoughts been as you've now played about almost 2 seasons with the rule change?
Yeah, so personally I'm a fan of it because it allows you to go get points on the road with like a gritty 0-0 tie. My freshman year was the only time that we played overtime, and it's honestly just a bit weird to play an overtime game in a regular season. But yeah, like I said, it allows you to go get gritty points on the road. If you're scrapping for a 0-0 draw and you can't hang on for another 20-ish minutes, then I think it really benefits teams.
Do you think it perhaps benefit teams that tend to play a little bit more defensive style of soccer
It definitely would. If you go up 1-0 early in the game and then you can hang on, maybe just concede one, go for the tie. Towards the end of the season, it's also really beneficial when the games are getting really, really competitive and everyone's neck and neck in points, looking for a playoff berth. I think, I'm a fan of it. It makes it more realistic in my eyes.
Yeah, because regular season overtime is not necessarily something you see a lot of in high-level soccer.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was NCAA rule until the end of the 2021 season. But that's interesting to hear. It just kind of occurred to me when I was looking at that and how we talked about coming into 2022. It's like, we're going to see a lot more draws. It's going to be a lot different, especially when trying to, I'm not trying to evaluate teams across different regions when you're looking at NCAA berths and things like that.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely something you have to prepare for, too, because like you said, teams might play more defensively, so you might have to alter game plans and whatnot, giving where you are in the season, what your standing looks like, who your opponent is. So it also adds a lot of diversity to the games, I would say, in terms of tactics and whatnot.
Okay. So when you're looking at a game like Saturday, let's look at like the last 30 minutes or so on the road, scoreless, obviously facing a tough battle in the middle of the CCW standings. How aggressive are you playing in that, last 25, 30 minutes, or is it a little bit more defensive to make sure you come out of there with a point?
Yeah, so I think it's totally dependent on the opponent. On Saturday, for example, we were looking to go and get 3 points on the road. We thought we were definitely capable of doing so. But at the same time, it is also important that you protect home and don't concede, because giving up a late game winner is always painful.
Yeah, no kidding. And coming up now over the next 2 weeks, we'll have the final 4 games of the CCW regular season. This Wednesday, just a 45-minute drive down the road to Milliken for a 7 o'clock start. Saturday at home against North Park, 3:30 kick for that one. How are you guys preparing to go into these last 4 CCW games?
I think it's just about staying together with your teammates, all being on the same page. We obviously got to work really hard this week. Hopefully we can go get some points on the road against Milliken and set ourselves up for a good game against North Park. Obviously, taking points from teams at home is going to be the priority. And then anything we can grab on the road is just going to be a positive as well.
Mm-hmm. And as you look at, this point in the season, now we're the middle of October, you guys have been training for a couple months. What is the balance like? Most weeks you're playing Wednesday, you're playing Saturday, and you're getting towards the end of the year. You got to keep the legs fresh, but you have to stay in shape enough to be ready to go and be ready to go for 90 minutes. What is that balance like for you guys in practice these days?
So it's definitely something you have to take into account. Obviously, the day after a game, you're not going to be able to go get a hard training session in. So it's about being prepared on your own a lot. You got to put in time outside of practice to take care of your bodies. So then you're going to be raring to go when you're in front of coach, and he can be working different drills and whatnot when we're prepared for it. It definitely is hard with two games a week. There's a lot of recovery days. Also, the day before a game, you're not going to necessarily want to be going too hard. It's going to be more tactical preparation and whatnot. So it's really just making the most of the time you got in the days that are between games, and you can train hard. You got to put in the work when you can. But outside of that, it's just taking care of bodies, using the facilities that we have here at IWU and whatnot.
This year, as a senior, you are one of 4 captains alongside Ethan Feynman, Justin Hart, Brody Seaton. Typically 3 or 4 captains in that role. How have you adjusted to that role this year? And then really, how have the 3 or 4 of you complemented each other throughout the year to try to bring your different leadership qualities to the team?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because obviously Justin Hart and Ethan Feynman were captains last year as well, but going into the season this year, they've been experiencing some injuries, which is really unfortunate. Can't have them on the field, so that's why Brody Seaton was added as the 4th captain to accompany me on the field. I think the dynamic between the 4 of us is really good. It's all respect. Different conversation with coaches and whatnot, depending on the topic. Some of us might take the conversation, some of us might not. Also, with 4 captains, it offers a lot of different viewpoints, so we can kind of cover everything between the 4 of us. And overall, it's just a lot of teamwork between the 4 of us. It's all respect, and it works out really well.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because it's always, it can be tricky when you have a couple of captains who've gone through injuries and aren't necessarily, they're available, they're there as leaders off the pitch, but they're not they're not able to have that same role if you're doing rehab while everybody else is
they're
out
definitely
there.
Trying their best, and
yeah,
we really appreciate it. They're doing all they can from the sidelines given their situation.
Yeah. So a little bit to finish off here, what we've tried to do with so many of these interviews with our student athletes this fall is a little bit of the get to know you outside of just Ryan Miller, soccer player as a Titan. So talk to us a little bit about kind of what else you've been involved with academically, extracurricular at Illinois Wesleyan.
Yeah, so I'm on the student athlete committee. I'm on the cabinet. So that's something outside. I've been parts of various clubs. I'm also in Theta Chi fraternity. So that's been a huge part of my social life outside of soccer. Obviously, you're friends with all your teammates, but it's good to have groups outside of that. I've met some of my best friends through that. Really, it's just about staying on top of grades and academics outside of the season, because obviously that takes up so much time. And then even when you're not necessarily in the fall season, you're still training all spring, and you're having sessions with the team and whatnot. So it's definitely a balance, but you try to get involved with as many things as you can outside of soccer.
And thinking back to, your 4 years of high school soccer and looking at, okay, I want to play in college, where do I want to go? And coming all the way from California, now out to Illinois. How was that adjustment freshman year, especially coming over at a very weird year in general in the United States? But.
Yeah, so obviously we had to deal with COVID, which I think threw off a lot of freshmen in general, but it definitely was a transition period. Obviously the weather is a lot different. The winters are kind of hard for me, but I really enjoy the people here. I love the campus and whatnot, so at the same time, you do get homesick a little bit. I'm gone for months on end without seeing my parents and sister and whatnot. But, the people here make it a lot easier than some might think, and I really enjoy it here.
And do they get to come in for senior day this fall?
Yeah, so
okay.
my parents typically come for a week during every season. They try to catch 2 games, and then this year, of course, it's going to be for senior night, which is a huge game for us as well against North Central.
Yeah, and to finish recapping that upcoming schedule, we mentioned Wednesday at Milliken, Saturday against North Park, and then the final 2 games of the regular season, Wednesday, just a little over a week from now, 7:30 at Elmhurst, and Saturday the 21st is that senior day against North Central. If you have not made it out to Nicefield yet, come on out and see the Titans in action, again home, each of the next 2 Saturdays, 3:30 both times against North Park and North Central. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be back in just a few moments with Titan football coach Norm Eash.
Why is Illinois Wesleyan the #1 school in Illinois for jobs? Maybe it's because we're the AND University. That's right, A-N-D. And. Here you can explore the arts and study in a pre-professional program, double major, and play a sport, do an internship, and study abroad. Your opportunities are endless. Set yourself apart with a degree from Illinois Wesleyan.
Welcome back inside the Ames Library podcast studio. Our second guest of the day is Illinois Wesleyan head football coach Norm Eash. Coach Eash coming off a overall enjoyable homecoming weekend. Great to see everybody. Obviously, wish the second half of that game would have gone a little bit differently. Titans able to hang with WashU for quite a while before a couple short field scores in the third quarter. How'd you feel about the game overall?
Well, first of all, it was a great setting. Beautiful day. The sun was out. It's a little brisk, but that's football weather, everybody says, right? And a little wind, not too bad, but great crowd. I've been to many homecomings, and it was one of the largest crowds I've seen at a homecoming in my tenure. And so it was a great setting for our kids to play in. We're playing a great team in WashU. They're undefeated, and there's a reason why they're undefeated. They do things very well. They're disciplined. They play hard. But I was proud of our kids. We came out, and that first half, it was a battle. They took it right down and scored, and then we took it right down and almost had a halfback option pass completed. We because of the wind, I think we overthrew it, but that would have tied the score up. But we settled for a field goal, so was feeling really good at 7-3, and then they got one more or a field goal too, and then made it 10-3, and that's how the first half was. And so it was a back and forth. I thought our defense played really well in the second quarter, but second quarter we were on a short field, so it was hard to flip the field with the win.
Yeah, and we've seen so much of that in a few different times this year. We've talked about the defense keeping us in the game, but when you're faced with a team like WashU that has their size and talent level at the skill positions on offense, and you give them a 40-45 yard field to work with, and that was really, to me at least, the story of the third quarter was look at Titans receive the kickoff. Had an 8-play drive, came up just short on the fake punt, which, by the way, I was a big fan of that call in general. I think, and I'm sure thinking along with you on the sidelines, facing an undefeated team at home, you feel like you have them where you want them, down by 7 with the ball at the beginning of the second quarter or third quarter, and try to be aggressive.
Yeah, I thought we needed to generate some momentum, and we're right at the 38-yard line, and it was a 4th and 6, and that's kind of what we were looking for. Actually, earlier in the game, we had a 4th and 10, and my assistants talked me out of it. That's a little bit far to go, but it was a perfect situation. We get that, and I think our players would have been really, really excited. But they came back, and they did what any coach did right after that fake punt where we didn't get it. They took a shot. We call it taking a shot, and they hit a post over the middle, took it down to about inside the 10, and they scored. And so we didn't get momentum, and they got momentum. But I think the big one was in the third quarter. We fumbled a punt, and they recovered on about the 4-yard line and took it in. And then, they got 14 points on us and took it to 24-3. And so that was a uphill battle for our kids. We kept, our kids, our players never gave up. They kept fighting hard, and we got a touchdown in, and that was great. But again, we got to quit, making mistakes, having penalties. We got to be able to manage the field better. And when we start doing that, we're going to win games.
Yeah, and facing a team that you're losing the size battle to in the trenches, a 7-point game at the half, and then when they had 3 touchdown drives for a total of 88 yards in the third quarter, like you said, it's the field position game and just those little mistakes that 1 or 2 plays here and there that can turn a really close game into not.
I said to our players after the game, I think we're the best 1-4 team in the country. I think we do some things well where we don't ever win the consistency battle. And that's on us. That's not on the other team. So whatever you want to call it, team discipline, self-discipline. We do have a young quarterback playing, and I thought Dermot Smythe did a nice job. Those are all things that are kind of building up and kind of hurts us when we get in ball games with good teams. I mean, and we played some good teams. The only team that we played that has a losing record is Milliken. Everybody else, is either 5-0 or 4-1. Maybe Carroll's 3-2 now, but they're a good team too.
Yeah, and we'll see another team that will bring a winning record into the ball game this weekend up at North Park, 2-2 in the conference, 3-2 overall. They've also got losses to WashU and Carroll on the register right now, and victories over Milliken and a season opening win at Manchester, and then beat Carthage up in Kenosha 35-20 on Saturday. How are you preparing for the Vikings going in on Saturday?
Well, we go on the road for 2 weeks here, and they're tough road trips. I mean, when you go to North Park, it's a different environment. It's an urban setting. You have to walk down, 3 city blocks to get to the field, and you don't have any facilities down there. You're in a tent. It's just different. And none of our kids, I asked them yesterday, none of our kids have played up there, which kind of amazed me. It was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be different for all our players going up there. And, of course, Carthage is a long trip. We don't spend the night at Carthage, and so that's right. It's kind of a tweener trip. It's not far enough where you spend the night, but not close enough that, you can leave a little bit later. I mean, we have to leave early. But we're going to concentrate on North Park first. The thing about North Park, they have a lot of players back. I think they have 9 stars back on defense and 8 stars back on offense. And they're playing well. We follow them as far as the scouting part, and so we get to see them play every week. And so I'm impressed with them. They play hard, and they're going to play really. They'll be excited to play us at home. I think they've only beaten us like 3 or 4 times in the history of our program, and they're going to be. It'll be a challenge for us.
Mm-hmm. When you look at all of the non-game related things from this past weekend, obviously getting to see any of the captains were able to make it back, a lot of your former players, families in the stands. You talk about that huge crowd being such a help on game day, but just on an individual basis, how nice was it to be able to just catch up with some of the guys from the last 40 years?
Well, we did invite all the captains that have played for me, which is 37 years, and if a rough estimate, you figure 4 captains a year for 37 years, you're looking at, right around 150 captains. And not all of them could make it. Depends on what age they are. It seems like the older captains came back and the younger ones, it's those ones in the middle that have a family now that couldn't make it back. But it was good to see them and talk to them a little bit and see how successful they are and how happy they are. And the common thing when you get around the captains is just how they cherish their time here and being part of Titan football and the relationships that they have made, and those relationships have lasted a lifetime. I mean, like the 92 football team, which was a very good team, I bet they have a reunion every year. They go golfing. There's 34 guys that go on the golf trip. It's amazing to hear those things. So that's what it's all about. And, for me to be able to be with them and spend some time with them, that was precious to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were able to find some of that time, at least around game preparations and everything.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. There's a tradition that I have that I always have captains talk to our team the Friday before homecoming. So this year, instead of having just 2 or 3, I think there was like 25 in there. And not everyone spoke. We couldn't do that, but it was fun to line them up and introduce them and have our players see what Titan football has done for them, and they can relate. And the other fun thing about the weekend is my young captains got to meet some of the older captains, and they don't know each other, but there's that common bond of being a captain. I always say that the highest honor that can be bestowed upon you is being elected captained by your peers. It's not all American. It's not all conference. It's when you're elected captain, and it's not an easy job. It's a hard job, and but it's so well worth it when you are able to say that you led your team, and especially if you led your team to a winning season. I mean, it's pretty special. So it was a fun weekend. I'm glad we did it, and hopefully they'll continue to come back for homecoming.
Absolutely, and hopefully the Titans can pick up a couple of wins on those road trips before you guys return home as well.
Well, I think our goal right now, Tommy, is we talk to our players about having a winning season, and we're sitting at 1-4, so we got some work to do, and we have 5 games left. So that's going to be our goal, and we got to take them one at a time.
Yeah, and the first one of those, again, coming up for any of you watching from the Chicago area, head out to North Park on Saturday, 1 p.m. kickoff, Titans and Vikings. Hope to see you all there. Good luck, Coach. I'll be back momentarily with Titan junior golfer Jadyn Spinks.
Hey there, Titan fans. The Titan Streaming Network is looking for new sponsors for the 2023-2024 season. If you are interested in sponsoring the live streams and having your brand or company showcased during the games, don't hesitate to reach out to live stream coordinator Tyler Wilson at twilson2@iwu.edu. Together, we can form a partnership that helps all sides and allows us to continue showcasing and supporting Titan athletics. Thank you, and go Titans!
Of the day is Titan junior women's golfer Jadyn Spinks. Jadyn, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And most importantly, congrats on what was a stellar weekend, I think, by any accounts, except perhaps weather-related accounts. For those who are a few days behind, the 18th CCIW title in program history for Titan women's golf. The 54-hole total of 886 broke the program record set 2 years ago, and a nice dominant victory by 56 strokes when it was all said and done. Just looking at team-wise, first, how'd you guys feel about this weekend?
Yeah, we felt really good. We were very excited going into it. Coming out of Century World, we were a little bit disappointed, I would say, with the way that things finished out. So I think that gave us a little more motivation, or felt that we had more to prove. So we were very excited going into it.
Yeah, and then you wake up at, was it a 5 a.m. departure time on Thursday or
Pretty
something along
close
those
to
lines?
that, yeah, very early.
For the first tee time out at Metamora Fields, not the warmest, rainy, a little bit of a soggy course.
Yeah.
How did that play into your approach to the first round?
Yeah, definitely you just kind of have to be prepared for those things. You can't do anything about the weather, so just pack your rain gear, pack your umbrellas, kind of brace yourself. You just have to kind of stay mentally tough through it. You have to realize that your playing competitors are playing in the same thing that you are, and just kind of mentally focus yourself to just kind of think about something else. Maybe if the weather's bothering you or whatever, just try to put it out of your head, because it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, and it got a little bit better maybe throughout the weekend, but then dealing with a lot of wind as well on Saturday. In particular, was Saturday the worst wind-wise?
I would say Friday was the worst, but Saturday wasn't awesome either.
No, and for those, I'm guessing you've played Metamora Fields quite a few times in your life.
Yes, for sure.
But it's pretty open.
It is. There's no trees. There's nothing to stop that wind. It just blows right through.
Oh, no. I ran into Coach Onsrud on Wednesday, and he was saying, the men are at Weaver, women at Metamora. Weaver Ridge, obviously, a beautiful course, very close to Metamora Fields, but a completely different setup, in that you're often way back in the trees in a valley blocked by the wind.
Yep.
But it worked out well, and that's the end of it. And
exactly.
Just, focusing a little bit on your week, specifically your, career low in college coming into the weekend was a 73, went out and shot 71, 76, 73 across 3 days for a second place finish, just 2 shots behind Emma Thorman. I mean, on a scale of 9 to 10, how thrilled are we with the way this weekend went in general?
I was really excited. I felt really good coming into this week. Like you said, I played Metamora quite a few times in high school, and even in college I played some summer tournaments there. And I've always seemed to play really well there, so I had really positive and good thoughts going into the weekend, and I was able to perform well, and everything was kind of syncing up, and I was hitting the ball good. I was making putts, so everything just kind of came together for me.
Is there anything, when you talk about feeling confident going into Metamora Fields, having played well there in the past, is there anything in particular about that course that really, does it for you, or is it just, I know I've played well there before, I can do it again?
Yeah, it's a lot of, good memories and just, good thoughts. You walk up to a hole, you're like, oh, last time I played this, I got a birdie. It's just, whenever you start or step up to a hole, if you can just, think good things, you're a lot likely to do better, but I have a lot of good memories there. I think that was what did it for me.
And, talking about the mental aspect of it, especially when you're looking at going into the last day of a 54-hole championship, had 6 players within 4 shots of the lead, including a few teammates in that group going into a final round. Emma shot a 70 to come back and win at the end, and you had the second lowest score of anyone on that last day with a 73 to finish second. Is there anything in particular you attribute that to, being able to close so strong when you saw a lot of, 78 through 90s on the board on Saturday in the wind?
Yeah, I would just say you can't really think about your playing competitors and what they're doing. You just kind of have to focus on yourself, and I'm going to do this, and kind of block the other people out of your mind. I would also say, when everybody's that close at the top, I don't usually like to look at the scoreboard. I'm not one that's, checking at every hole. Not saying I never do, but I don't, watch it constantly, because I feel like that just puts a little bit of added pressure on you that isn't necessary. So I would really say that I just kind of focused on my game and did what I knew I could do towards the end.
Hit the next shot as best you can and
exactly.
And take care of it from there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So once again, a really strong showing across the board for the Titans. Obviously, the 2 of you, Lexi Onsred finishing 3rd, Macy we just talked to last week 6th, and Jackie O'Neill, your roommate, finishing in a tie for 9th. 5 Titans on the all CCIW register again this year, and of course, most importantly, the automatic berth into the NCAA championship in the spring. As we look forward, towards the rest of the fall season, which is quickly coming to a close, anything that you really want to be out there working on in your game as you get into the last few weeks that we can really play outside a lot in the fall?
Yeah, I would say we focus a lot on short game. That's probably our main focus. I mean, you can have an off day hitting the ball any day, but if you can make up for that with your short game and chip it close and make a putt, I mean, you're going to do pretty good. And you're probably going to do better than your playing competitors. So I would say that that's what I tend to focus on the most, just because I feel like that's where you can make up the most strokes.
Mm-hmm. And, that tends to be one of the more difficult things to work on inside sometimes as you go through the winter. But now that you've had a chance to spend a little bit more time this fall in the Wietrich Skills Lab, the second half of the golf center that was dedicated this past weekend, what have you seen so far from that former racquetball court down there?
So it's nice to have another putting green. We share these facilities with our men's golfers, and there's quite a few of us in both of those programs, so it's nice to have an extra space to use just so we can spread out a little bit more. And then we've been focusing a lot on our wedges recently and distance control, so that's really nice to see in the simulators. Gives you a good visual, gives you all the numbers, all the information that you need. Mm-hmm.
So transitioning a little bit to off the course, Jadyn, away from just being a golfer, when you think back to growing up in town, going to U-High, what was it that first drew you, not just as an athlete, but as a student as well, to Illinois Wesleyan?
Yeah, so Wesleyan has a great reputation, academically and athletically. But originally I had thought that I was just going to go out of town. I was like, I don't want to stay in Bloomington, just not what I wanted to do. But the more that I thought about it, after I visited, I was like, this is awesome. I was like, I think I want to stay right here. This is going to be really good. I loved the team. I loved the coaches. My major is psych. My minor is health. And they have really good grad school, kind of bounce back, I guess, and forth. But really good grad school, entrance rates, and everything just kind of aligned well for me.
Mm-hmm. Have you been able to, aside from your student and athlete commitments, to get involved in much else here as a Titan so far?
I've worked a lot with our pre-health advisor, Michelle. She's gotten me set up with some like shadowing opportunities and job kind of just internship sort of things that I can go around and see other people in the professions that I want to do. And that's been really helpful for me in my academic career here at Wesleyan.
We did not have a paid sponsorship from Michelle Darnell on today's broadcast, but we really should.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes. So as you kind of look forward, I mean, going into the spring season, going into a couple tournaments, obviously the Illinois Wesleyan Spring Fling, I believe the next time you guys are at home
I think
hosting,
so, yes.
is that correct? Mm-hmm. As you prepare for the the shorter spring season going to NCAAs, what's it going to be like to really, I mean, is it something you think about a lot, having that, your last few months with this group before the seniors leave? Or
Yeah. I try not to think about that because it makes me really sad. But I'm excited to have one more season with everybody and just kind of finish up strong. We've had our same 5 traveling since I started here. So I feel like we've just really grown up together, and like these people are my best friends. So it's really fun, and I'm excited to finish out with them this season.
Yeah, we're excited to see everything else, and congrats once again on a fantastic weekend, both individually and as a team, and good luck with everything else this fall.
Thanks.